Omakulwe 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 Secretary General, greetings to the convener of the province, our national spokesperson, Commissar Leon Matthys, and all commissars who are deployed to this province. Greetings to the provincial chairperson and secretary of the province, along with the entire provincial command team and all regional command teams who are here today. We send our greetings to the provincial leaders who are here today and all members of the media and the people of South Africa. We salute the loyal and brave and dedicated ground forces of the EFF, to whom this organization of the poor and the dejected, masses of our people belongs. We salute you, the true revolutionaries, who have dedicated your lives, your sweat and your blood to the liberation of our people, and have sworn never to betray the generational mission of freedom in favor of personal advancement. Fellow fighters, I stand before you as a proud president who gave an instruction in the early hours of this morning that all ground forces of the EFF must be gathered in Soweto by 6 o'clock. This call was made deliberately to test if the forces on the ground are intact and they can respond within 24 hours. I stand before you re-energized by your energy, inspired by your commitment, your fearless character, and the courage to take on the enemy without thinking twice in the name of the economic freedom in our lifetime. I can proudly say today to those who said I'm left alone, that I'm not alone. The ground forces are here to continue the battle for economic freedom in our lifetime. I stand before you as a leader that is confident of the future, because we know that the young people of the EFF, led by the president of the Student Command, are ready to take the baton from us and continue with the struggle for economic freedom. Comrades, we are very proud that we have an intact organization in this province and the whole of South Africa. All those who claim to be with us, they should know that a call is going to be made in each province around 3 in the morning, asking the leaders to convene the ground forces in less than 24 hours. And let's see if that province still has got ground forces like we demonstrated here today. Comrades, I salute you. I want to salute you because whether knowingly or unknowingly, you have been the first line of defense of our movement, as the constitution of the EFF demands of you. You did not listen to anyone who tried to persuade you into abandoning your constitutional obligation, which is to defend your organization. No one has the right to tell you how you must defend your organization. Only the Constitution must guide you and not any level of manipulation by those who have turned their back on our struggle must convince you that you must be silent while or our movement is under attack. Comrades, Section 6 of the EFF Constitution, which speaks to the principles of the EFF, is that is the only guide which we must all follow. There is no any other guide that we must follow except Section 6 of the Constitution of the EFF. When the organization is under attack, it is in Section 6, subsection 7b, where the EFF Constitution speaks to what it means to be loyal to the organization. This section states that loyalty to the organization means that at all times, members and leaders will not keep quiet when the organization is unfairly criticized and attacked in private and in public. This section, fellow fighters, demand of you to defend this organization. It demands that you do not keep quiet when the organization is attacked, both in private and in public. I want to tell you today, comrades, that to betray this movement for personal reasons constitute an attack on our movement. Comrades, it is this section of the EFF Constitution that obligates all of us to speak out in private and in public and declare where we stand when the attack of abandoning this movement confronts us. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who said in the United States, as they were confronted by the cruel regime of racism in that country, it was him who declared, open quote, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends, close quotes. Fellow fighters, as we face this testy moment in our movement and are confronted by betrayal of our struggle for economic freedom in exchange for personal gains, we must not bother ourselves about what our enemies are saying, but we must ask ourselves, why are those who claim to be our comrades silent? Why are those who are known and popular to be the most vocal on social media suddenly silent? Why are their voices when our movement is under attack? Where are those loud voices? Why do they not use their platforms to speak in defense of the EFF if they are truly loyal to this movement? It is our constitutional obligation to speak out and declare our confidence in this movement when those who were trusted with it chose to abandon it. However, comrade, if there are those amongst us who are to be ashamed to declare where they stand as we defend our movement, I'm willing to give you a simple task and go and look at what those closest to them are saying and how they are behaving. A leader of the EFF who is well known in the EFF, who's very popular in social media, on television, radio, and everywhere else. The EFF gets under attack. These leaders do not say anything, but because they don't know where they stand. But there is a practical way to find out where they stand. Just go and look at where their parents stand. Look at where their relatives stand. Look at where their spouses stand. You will know that those closest to them are speaking on their behalf because they whispered into their ears. How can someone say the decision to join Umkhonto weSizwe is the best decision ever taken, and my wife Mantra is the first one to like such a thing, and you say Julius Malema is with us, when the partner likes the things that seeks to denounce the organization and where the organization stands, where the relatives, where the cousins and siblings have declared where they stand, and you still ask yourself, where does this leader stand? Look at those around him, and you will know where these leaders stand. Comrades, there is no one who must not declare their confidence in the EFF. Those who choose to be silent during the attack of the EFF, we must know them for being the silent enemies of our organization and they must be treated as such. Comrades, do not make the mistake of choosing people tomorrow who are too ashamed to choose you today. You are too busy following other resignations, popularizing certain people that they must take over, yet they are silent when people decided to abandon you. Why can't they choose you? Why do you keep on choosing the people who never choose you when it is time for them to choose you? They are telling you silently that as the movement recovers from a difficult elections and is surrounded by vultures, they do not choose you. They are choosing what looks like greener pastures. Many of them are opportunistic because they want to see whether they will emerge in the upcoming Third National People's Assembly before they decide whether they will remain in the EFF or not. Many of them are using the Third National People's Assembly as a threat that if they do not get elected or are not part of the leadership discussions leading up to the conference, then they will leave and join MKP. We must never be blackmailed by those who want to threaten us with leaving after the Third National People's Assembly. I want to say to them, leave now. Leave now so that we can know how many soldiers we have in this struggle to liberate our people. You must leave today because nothing is going to change between now and December. Nothing is going to change now and in the future. The future looks bright because we determine it today. We are here to make our destiny for how the future looks like tomorrow. Leave now. We have no reason to beg anyone. If you want to leave, leave now and leave us alone. Even if we are alone, we'll always continue to speak truth to power. It's very painful to count the soldiers you don't have. Fellow fighters, none of you should allow anyone to bargain their loyalty for position. Anyone who bargains their loyalty in exchange for a position or deployment is an enemy agent who must be identified and isolated from our movement. Your silence has told us enough about your character. We do not need people who are considering their options in the EFF. We do not need people who are willing to sacrifice principle in exchange for blue lights in the EFF. We only need people who are loyal to this movement and loyal to our people no matter what. Our task now, comrades, is to build this movement and isolate those who think the EFF is a step ladder to positions and personal gain. Comrades, we need to remind ourselves why we joined the EFF. Our organization turned 11 years old on the 26th of July 2024, and we marked this milestone by recommitting ourselves to the ideals and principles that are within our founding manifesto and the organizational documents that guides us. One such a document which was discussed and adopted at the Second National People's Assembly of the EFF in 2019 is the organizational redesign document, which reminds us who we are and how we ought to wage this struggle for liberation. It is this document, along with our founding manifesto, that informs the character and form of our struggle and the aims within it that makes us the most dependable vehicle for the return of the land and the defeat of racism and imperialism. It is in this document that we seek to build this movement beyond individuals and build an EFF that manifests itself in the following ways: a Marxist-Leninist, Fanonian pan-continental movement with unquestionable ability to lead the whole of society towards economic freedom, comprised of community-based activists, branches and members, affiliated workers' union, civil society organization, research and educational institutions, professional organizations, doctors for economic freedom, lawyers for economic freedom, engineers for economic freedom, teachers for economic freedom. An organization that has built adequate mass, political and ideological power to win elections and provide progressive, decisive, and responsive socialist government at national, provincial, and local government. An organization with maximum capacity to train, develop, guide, and oversee and monitor all its deployees in all spheres of the state. A mass campaigning organization that consistently wins over members to the struggle for economic freedom and is active even in the period when there are no elections. A pan-continental movement with the ability to win elections not only in South Africa but in other parts of the African continent. An organization with elected structures at all levels that have an independent capacity to organize like you did tonight and mobilize society behind the struggle for economic freedom and assist ordinary people with everyday challenges. A fully functional organization with a functioning EFF Women's Command, Youth Command and Student Command, and ultimately a Young Pioneers Movement. An organization with excellent research and policy development capacity to guide all fighters and commissars deployed in all spheres of government. An organization with an institutional political school that produces the best graduates in various fields of study and has internal capacity to send minimum 500 students to the best university across the world every year. An organization with a sound relationship with other fraternal organizations on the African continent and other parts of the world. Organization with sound business interests that generate enough money to fund its own programs without reliance on external funders. An organization that owns all its properties and has a property portfolio which include national conference facilities and accommodation. An organization with full capacity, with a fully functional and efficient media publicity division that publish a weekly newspaper, quarterly journals, books, and has capacity to directly communicate with more than 10 million people all at once through various channels. An organization that has a perfect internal communication mechanism which will ensure that on a weekly basis members and activists of the organization have access to the latest organizational resolutions and programs. Comrades, the Central Command Team is your highest decision-making body, and the Central Command Team should be comprised of commissars who have individual as well as collective capacity to provide leadership to the people of South Africa. The CCT should be composed of members who deeply understand the founding manifesto of the EFF, the constitution and all other policies of the organization. The CCT should be composed of members who are able to conduct political education and training to all lower structures of the organization. The CCT should be composed of members who will not complain about the vastness of South Africa and are thus able and willing to travel the length and breadth of South Africa to do the work of the organization. The CCT should be composed of commissars who will not completely depend on the organization for everyday basic organizational necessities such as travel to their areas of deployment and must have capacity to legitimately and legally fundraise in a manner that will not compromise the organization and themselves as individuals. CCT commissars should command absolute clarity on all issues, actively and consistently seek to improve their levels of knowledge and expertise on diverse range of issues and topics. The CCT should be defined by a certain degree of quality wherein only those who have demonstrated very qualified leadership qualities and loyalty to the organization should be able to be elected into this structure. The CCT should be composed of commissars who are able to coherently write perspective and submissions and are able to make presentation on their own writings. The CCT should be composed of commissars who can speak coherently and cogently without being guided by anyone. The CCT should be composed by commissars who are able to conduct media interviews and participate in public debate in a manner that will not bring doubt on the collective capacity of the organization. The province must have the same capacity. We cannot have a provincial leadership which cannot implement its own programs and hold mass rallies in stadiums without assistance of the head office. If you are a province that has never organized a rally without the national office putting any cent, you must know you do not meet the qualification of being a provincial structure. EFF provincial offices must be owned and controlled by the EFF structures that are relatively independent from the national leadership, and they will be responsible for all the lower structures in that province. The PCT must hold the same and relevant competencies in their province as those of the commissars. No one should be able to lead a province if you can't read and write your own perspective, if you can't conduct media interviews, if you can't agitate your own communities. Who are these regional leaders who don't have properly constituted RCTs? Why do they call themselves regional leaders without regional leadership? Why do they call themselves with regional leaders if they do not have membership? Why are they called regional leaders when the number of members is the same number of leaders of that particular region? The membership is the leadership. Therefore, there can't be leadership. Comrades, region must have capacity to organize their own events and organize their own memorial service in salutation of those who pass on. The regions must have the capacity to bury their own with dignity without any form of assistance by the provincial leadership. All of the substructures of the EFF have got an obligation to make sure that indeed where they exist, there is a fully fleshed branch of the EFF. You can never be a leader of the EFF if you don't come from a branch. What type of a branch do you have which can organize transport for members from one VD to the other VD? It can be a legitimate branch. A branch must at least PCT meet once a week and hold membership meetings once a month. If your branch is not meeting weekly, there's no branch. A branch must have an address. It must not depend on the address of the branch chairperson. Like other political parties do not have head offices. They depend on the address of the president of that political party. Let a branch have its own identifiable operation center where, when people need the EFF, can always go and visit that operation center. Branches must be fully functional, and they must have VD coordinators who are no less than 10 members. Branches of the EFF must be active members of their own communities. You must be active member in each and every street, organization, club, such as churches, stokvels, and all such organized formation. EFF branch must be able to communicate with all members of the community in the branch through the use of local media and all other necessary forms of mobilization and organizing. Fighters, you can't be an activist if you can't take part in the struggles of communities. You are not an activist if you cannot call a small event and agitate a community to protest against this or that community matter. Comrades, if you are an activist, you must be the first one to arrive when there is a funeral, a party, or a wedding, any other form of activity in the community. You must be the first ones to respond. Always know the exact details of your community. You must know your neighbors. You must know how many disabled people are here, how many schools are here, how many churches are here. who stays where, what is the ecosystem of your community. Because if you do not know that, then you are not an activist. You must always be available for a genuine protest and mass action in their communities. If there is a protest in your community, you must be there, but it has to be a genuine protest, not an ANC factionalized protest which seeks to remove one councillor and replace him with another factional councillor. Comrades, you must be an organizer. A revolutionary fighter is a professional in the way she approaches the political question of the revolution. A revolutionary fighter is the one who abolishes her ego or his ego and attachment to personal success and achievement. Do not be obsessed with self-look and how you appear, but be obsessed with how community survives on a daily basis. Comrades, as a fighter, you must always be guided by revolutionary morality if you want to succeed. Comrades, a fighter can never be depressed. A fighter can never be bored. A fighter can never be sad. A fighter does not hold grudges. A fighter does not complain unnecessarily because they've got too much in their hands. Fighters always read and listen to people to understand the struggles and the sufferings of the people on the ground. A revolutionary fighter that is characterized by charitable and practices that principle of the left hand must never know what the right hand is doing. A revolutionary fighter does not dwell in showing off material because you want to be recognized as an individual that possesses material. A revolutionary fighter leads by example and does everything with integrity. A revolutionary fighter is an internationalist who seeks at all times to connect local to international struggle. You can't say you are a revolutionary activist and a fighter, yet you are xenophobic. You can't say you are an activist and a fighter, yet you hate your fellow Africans. Fighters, this is what made you join the EFF. This is what made you fall in love with the EFF. Why do you now look for individual validation for you to pursue that which you signed for? You said you are joining this organization voluntarily without any expectation of material benefit. Why can't you remind yourself of your own oath? Because you took an oath with your organization and the oath is binding on your conscience. All of a sudden, you think that the perspective of this organization should come from the social media. All of a sudden, what Twitter says about xenophobia, about loving Africa and borderless Africa is what becomes your perspective. You forget why you joined the EFF. You follow that which is sponsored on Twitter. There is no branch of the EFF on Twitter or Facebook that has any right to declare on leadership question of the EFF or dictate to the EFF which direction you must take politically. If you are taking your guidance from the social media, you are a lost soldier. It means Elon Musk is your president because Elon Musk controls Twitter. He can open as many accounts and tweet like these are the people who support the EFF, whereas they are sponsored accounts of the owner of Twitter. For a second, you must know that Elon Musk comes from South Africa. He's got interest here in South Africa. What stops him from manipulating a Twitter perspective to suit a perspective that will defend the status quo? Where, on all the guiding principles I've alluded to, did they say that Twitter or social media will always give you guidance on what you need to say? Twitter sends you running when you defended that black child, whether she's Nigerian or not, and they even said to you, you must dare defend her. Her mother is fraud and everything else. All of you went into a cocoon because you responded to a sponsored view which said you must hate this black child. The mother is fraud. For a second, you must love South Africans. And for a second, you also doubted that there was a second where you never loved South Africans. You get told by Twitter, you get told by Twitter on what should happen in the EFF the following day. I did not join the struggle on Twitter. I joined the struggle in the dusty streets of Sishiu. It was the poverty of our people that led me into joining the struggle. There is no media, there is no social media, there is no commentator, there is no political analyst who can tell me what needs to happen. On all matters, I'm guided by the EFF founding manifesto, the Constitution and the Code of Conduct of the EFF. Why have you surrendered our leadership to Twitter and the Facebook battalions? Comrades, the struggle has proven over a period of time now that no struggle will ever be won on Twitter. The struggle must be won on the ground by waking the branches of the EFF. I'm not saying you must not participate, but when you participate in the social media, you must be a soldier with political consciousness, that no apolitical person will ever determine your political process. Comrades, we did not join the struggle to be in power. We joined the struggle to liberate our people. And if our people get liberated tomorrow, even before we get into power, we can resign the struggle because our people are liberated. We are not here to self-seek. We must always stick to the principle. Some of these social media commentators was even saying, you comrades don't love the EFF. You don't want the EFF to win elections. That's why you are saying what you are saying about this child who's a fraud. And all of a sudden you are scared to stay your position. Your position on that girl was necessitated by the fact that an African child is under attack. Any other means to defend each other is important that we implement it. Not this thing that you are doing, that you choose to fight an African child in favor of a white person. And you are still told, keep quiet. Because you don't know why you joined the struggle. Comrades, everyone must know why they joined the EFF. Everyone must know each and every policy position of the EFF. And you must never allow the social media commentators to impose on you uncontrollable egos on the leadership of the EFF. Since Floyd left, I've seen so many parading of people on the social media. And all of a sudden, you want that to guide your political perspective as branches of the EFF. No, you are not going to be guided by Twitter. You are going to be guided by your own internal discussions, guided by the Third National People's Assembly. You must discuss leadership in your branches. You must discuss leadership in your regions. You must discuss leadership in your provinces. Even when there is a provincial position, you must know that you must not put undue pressure on the delegates of branches. They can arrive at national conference and still decide to go against the provincial position. Why? 90% of delegates to that national conference will be branches. Therefore, it makes that conference a conference